Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 13, Episode 67. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Glad you guys are back with us here for this Wednesday show. I know Dave and I did not have a Monday show, but we woke up Monday morning and Dave made the point of really there wasn't much new to talk about from our Sunday show. So we just decided to come back here on Wednesday. Dave, I have a question for you. Here's a quote, maybe a riddle for you to figure out. I could be in Newport News with steel-toe boots on working in the shipyard. What does that mean? Can you help me?
It means he could be in the shipyard with steel-toe boots on working in the shipyard.
Thank you.
Could be living in a van down by the river, right? What a quote. Let me tell you, first, where that came from, that's was part of the Showtime clip. What inside the NFL, has their weekly segments of teams and all like that, and that's some of the sound bites that went into that, and several quotes from Tomlin during live action, mic'd up, if you will, during the game against the Raiders there, and it never disappoints when you have him mic'd up and all, and you watch that, especially the end of that thing, and even the clips that they chose of him there, that guy's not going anywhere right now when it comes to coaching. And even if he were, for whatever reason, to not be the Steelers head coach in the very near future, he is going to be an NFL coach. That guy thoroughly enjoys what he does, and he's very passionate about what he does. He has purpose in what he does, and you can really feel that in that video. So if you don't like him, well, maybe find a new hobby for the next couple of years if you don't like him coaching the Steelers, because it just, to me, he's not going anywhere, and if he does go anywhere, he's not leaving the NFL.
Right. I think in some sense, he's embraced and enjoyed the challenge of dealing with a rookie quarterback and kind of a rebirth and renewal of this offense, all the new pieces, the young pieces, the growing pains, which are frustrating and tough and difficult. And when you're losing games and you're struggling to put up points, that's not fun. But I think in some sense, he likes that challenge because, frankly, he's done everything else there is to do as a head coach, except for deal with a rookie quarterback and usher in that new era. And so I think he's, he talked about that in that clip that was shown by NFL Films about the grow up type games. And those aren't terms he's had to use too much in the past about his quarterback and his offense in general growing up. And now it's really applicable. And I think he kind of likes seeing that process unfold.
Yeah, you just wish they would have grew up a little bit earlier.
Sure.
Earlier in the season, at least one game more, right? This team has grown up, but in the same breath, you got 2 games left, and this team's going to look a lot different, next year. Now, I guess you can say, you're happy that the team grew up more on the offensive side of football, and it did. But let's not kid ourselves here either. There's a lot more things that got to happen on the offensive side of football. I mean, that final drive was absolutely great. They did a lot of good things. Obviously, Kenny throwing the football to the middle of the field on the score was great. But the running game is better, but it's still not. There's a lot of things that still have to happen on the offensive side of football. I mean, we've seen this defense, for not be great at times, but still not give up points, right? The Ravens game a couple weeks ago is a prime example to that. Isn't the goal to not let the other team score? And within that, how much finger pointing, how much how much can you complain about a team that only gives up that amount of points, other than saying, well, they should have gave up a few fewer, so the Steelers could have won that game. But within all that, their record is what it says it is, right?
Mm-hmm. It is, and you're right. The defense overall has been the better unit. That was the expectation coming into the year. They're more veteran, proven, established group. And you're right. I'm not trying to have delusions of grandeur about this offensive performance. They scored 13 points. They didn't score a touchdown until there was 45 seconds left when they had to win the game and save their season. Before that, the offense stunk. There's no debating that. I think whatever Tomlin says to grow up game, it's the find the resolve to win those tough games, to make those plays late when you have to, and not that necessarily you grew up a lot in that moment, but what you learn from that, what you carry over into hopefully this Baltimore game, the Cleveland game, and into next year. I think that's where you might see the fruits of that grow up type game, that maturing, where you sit there and say, okay, we've proven we can put it together when we have to. Let's not put ourselves in that situation again. But we now kind of have that knowledge, that experience of we won a big game in a big moment. I
feel more than anything, it was a little bit of a grow up game for Kenny Pickett,
Definitely.
And if that's the way you can narrow it down, then absolutely fine with it, because that's the guy you hope is going to be the guy, right? For obviously the next several years there. So, Alex, is this team exactly what we said it was going to be at the beginning of the season?
Yeah, I mean, pretty darn close. Our preseason predictions were both 8, and 9, and they're going to finish right around there, give or take a game, obviously, or be right at 8 and 9 with an offense that struggled. I think the defense hasn't been as good as we thought it would be, in part due to the TJ Watt injury, some of the secondary injuries. But even when healthy, they've maybe not been. Raiders game aside, they were excellent besides that first drive. I would say, though,
good but not great.
Yeah, but I would say they're generally in line with what I thought they would be, about 500 in close games, some struggles. I Pickett played earlier than I thought he would, but just big picture, they're essentially what we thought they would be.
Right. Other than Pickett play, I had him coming in, after the bye week. And, but, other than that, I thought this offense was going to struggle at times, especially running the football. I thought they're going to struggle scoring points, which they have. I thought the defense would be okay, but not as good as what many people thought it would be. And I think the Bills game and the Eagles game and the second game against the Bengals, I think is kind of proof of that. Obviously, some of these games that they've given up the 200 yards in is also proof of that. The thing that we and that you focused in on specifically at the beginning of the year. Look, this team isn't going to probably be as lucky in the one score games as they had been in the past, and that's come to fruition as well too. The Watt injury did not help. That might be worth one game, full game, right?
Oh, easily. I mean, again, the only game I get really mad about they lost, and I say, man, how do you lose that game? And you probably feel the same. Jets game. Jets. And if you had TJ Watt in that game with that pass rush late when the Jets had to throw, you shouldn't have lost that game regardless. But if you had TJ Watt, I think you certainly win that game. And if you win that one, and even if you lose all the others, Patriots, right, Browns, Dolphins, your landscape of your season, as we'll talk about later on, changes dramatically. So that's the one game that still irks the heck out of me above all the other losses.
Yeah, and I think the listeners and the mostly the social media fans would agree. Put that poll out on Twitter. I think last week there. Which one of the four games? The Patriots, the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Ravens game. Which one bugs you the most? And I mean, especially coming off of watching what Zach Wilson did the other night, getting pulled. That I don't know if recency bias played a role in that, but my choice would easily be the Jets. Looking back and say, man, you had, they had to score 2 touchdowns against you to win that game. In the final 6 minutes or whatnot, and they did it. That's the game that I have circled.
Who won that poll? I'm assuming the Jets.
I think it is. I'll look it up while you kibitz here.
Okay, yeah. Again, so many missed opportunities. Dolphins game, you had chances. Browns game, they closed that one out.
Jets 47.1% lead it right now. Ravens game is second, 32.9. The Patriots game is third at 11%, and the Dolphins game is last at 8.9. And the Dolphins game was the one where you could have had like 4 takeaways, and yet you had to drive it at the end of the game that could have won it as well too.
Yeah, I think I would have probably put the Dolphins game second on my list of games I'm most mad about they lost. But I thought the Jets would have the majority. I guess they're just going to have the plurality. But yeah, I'm with you, Jets.
Okay.
All right, Dave. A lot to talk about today. A lot of news to pass along to you guys. So let's dive right on in. Pittsburgh making several roster moves on Tuesday. The team officially placing linebacker Marcus Allen on injured reserve due to a bicep injury. Allen on, I think it was Monday or Tuesday. I think Monday, posting on Instagram him having surgery on his left arm. And so that's an injury that will end his season and potentially his Steelers career, a free agent to be in the offseason. Replacing him on the 53 is linebacker Tay Crowder, signed off the New York Giants practice squad, so he'll be on the roster for the rest of the regular season. The former Mr. Irrelevant who got some burn with the Giants over the last couple of years. Team also signing safety Scott Nelson to their practice squad. He was with the team a bit earlier in the year and is now circling on back.
All right, we knew what was going to happen because of the hospital pictures and what Tomlin said about Marcus Allen there. I guess the first question there is next man up at up back. Mark Robinson. I mean, not Mark Robinson. Jaylen Warren.
Well, the way it was in camp, it was Trey Norwood had been the backup up back, and then now he's hurt with the hamstring injury. Right. His status unknown. So Warren had also gotten some time there. So I don't know what they've been doing. It's been a while since camp, but my guess right now, if Norwood can't play, it'll be Jaylen Warren, and that's an important position there. That up back to control that. Allen's been in that spot for 2 years now, and so you don't want to lose sight of that importance.
Don't think that Harbaugh is looking at the special teams tape.
Right. A literal former special teams coordinator, now a head coach. He's going to have his eye on that one.
Right. They are going to, and remember, you had a blocked, you had a blocked field goal in that last game. And they are going to be interested in who that personal up back is for sure.
Right. So I know it's easy to dunk on Marcus Allen for his very dumb penalty, which was, make no mistake about it, very, very dumb against the Panthers, but he played a key role on special teams, and now you may be on a third string guy in that spot, and that's something to note.
Without a doubt, I think Warren can get it done from a blocking standpoint. It's just from the schematics, right?
Yeah, just the experience. You know, your first game as an NFL up back will be on the road against Baltimore in a must-win game on Sunday night. Big moment there for a guy. He can handle it, but it's just a big moment, something new.
Right, knowing who's coming from where and who's got who and who do you have, those kind of things there. So interesting aspect there. It'll be interesting. We'll see what happens with Trey Norwood, and if he can make it back. Boy, the way he was holding that hamstring made me think that he might not be ready by this next coming week. The new kid, Crowder, Mr. Irrelevant in 2020, I believe. Georgia product. Got him another converted running back to linebacker, Alex, with him. Now that happened a little bit earlier in his college career there. There is some quite interesting tape on him, to be quite honest with you. And there's also some tape on him that, from he needs a lot of polish still. He's got the athletic ability. I think he has a good sense, ability to read stuff. Now, he was kind of under fire because he was playing for a little bit with the Giants and then kind of benched. And then I think he lashed out on Twitter saying, "Free me." And then they waived him and then signed him back to the practice squad. So, there is reasons for him being on the street. Once again, he was the last player taken in the draft. He has the kind of measurable things. He's a very developmental guy at this point, and he's going to be a guy that's going to be interesting to see if they can get anything. There's upside there. It's just, can you polish the rest of it around him?
It is interesting for a 7th-round pick just 2 years ago. He's played a ton of football, right, Dave, in terms of just playing defensive snaps, and the quality of those snaps sounds like maybe they're not super high. That's not incredibly surprising for a 7th-round guy.
There is some good in there, but there's some
Well, you said he was
bad
benched at some point. Right.
Yeah, right.
So, will he dress this weekend? Jonathan Marshall still has not been able to get a hat. If that's kind of the equivalent, it may be tough. Of course, the focus really will be on the chance for Mark Robinson to dress and potentially play against a Ravens team that ran for 215 on Pittsburgh just a couple of weeks ago. Could Robinson get a hat and then have a role similar to what he had against Carolina and their run-heavy approach? That's possible. Carolina and Baltimore, they have slightly different run styles. Baltimore is a little less heavy and beefy than Carolina, but you could still see Robinson get some burn there. So Crowder certainly want to see what his activity is, but it's also possible he's just playing inactive for these next 2 games.
It is, but I tell you, he's got some special teams upside too. So more than anything with him, if he's, as he carries over into next season, and I would think that there's at least something there when it comes to special teams.
And as you point out in the post writing about it, there's a lot of inside linebackers that are about to be free agents in Pittsburgh, in Devin Bush and Robert Spillane and in Marcus Allen. So, Crowder, likely a futures contract type guy that goes in the offseason and just gives you something there, as potentially some guys will be leaving. Yeah,
look, he's on your 53-man roster, so that, probably exclusive rights, right? So,
okay.
Or restricted. How many years? He's got 2 years in, so I think that'd be a exclusive rights kid there. So easily retained during the off season. I would expect him to be in that aspect. Somebody's got a film room coming up on him, don't they?
I think Josh is at some point here. Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll see that sometime soon. So again, will Crowder make an impact? I think it'll be minimal, if anything, but certainly notable. And again, to me, when Allen went on IR, when we knew he had the injury, you go, okay, Mark Robinson may really get a chance here to have some consistent play time the next 2 games.
Yeah, I don't think we're going. I mean, it would take down a full inactive list, I think, for Crowder to get a helmet.
Sure, and the team looks pretty healthy, which is a good segue into the injury report, or at least the injury roundup as laid out by Mike Tomlin during his Tuesday press conference. So let me just pull up the entire list here. He mentioned Marcus Allen with the surgery, but we already knew that, and then the IR move confirmed that. Let's see, Mike Tomlin also talking about Miles Jack with the groin, Troy Norwood with the hamstring injury. No real updates there. Tomlin did later in the press conference say that he expects Terrell Edmunds to return in this game after missing the Raiders contest with a hamstring injury.
They sure could use him, especially against a team that likes to run the football, right? A guy like Edmunds down in the box quite a bit there. It'd be good to see. Hopefully they get Edmunds back for that. Look, they're down bodies, or could be down bodies at the safety position, depending on what happens with Norwood. So it'd be good to get Edmunds back.
Absolutely. So let's transition now into actually one note before we talk about Tomlin Tuesday here. Cam Hayward named the AFC Defensive Player of the Week, unsurprisingly, for his great performance in Week 16 against the Raiders. 7 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, 4 quarterback pressures, a pass deflection, just pure dominance. Had a video go up on Steelers Depot this morning that talked about just how good of a game that was. First time he's won the award since 2017, only the 3rd of his career. Kind of surprised me, but kudos there to Cam Hayward.
Boy, he was a monster in that game against the Raiders.
Yeah, easily his best game of the season and one of the best of his career.
Right.
All right, so let's transition now into Mike Tomlin Tuesday during his press conference. And what did Mike Tomlin have to say that kind of caught your attention, Dave?
Oh, that's a great question, I guess, overall. Let's see here. I'll have to pull up the transcript to jog my memory. Why don't you hit on what
he's happy about the game being flexed as Sunday night.
Right.
I think we're a little less excited about that than Mike Tomlin may be. But Steelers Ravens primetime football. Hopefully that game means something. It may not in the It'll mean something because it's Steelers Ravens, but for Pittsburgh's playoff hopes, it may not. We'll talk about that here momentarily, but Tomlin very excited for this primetime matchup.
Yes, he is. And let's see, talking about the rookie quarterback. I mean, there's, talking about more about the mobility of the quarterback, especially when it comes to the Ravens, and it kind of, is there much of a difference between Huntley and Lamar Jackson? He says, no, I think that it's similar in terms of their ability to utilize the quarterback position by design, or to make sure you're responsible for it, whether or not the quarterback is carrying the ball or not. You have to be responsible for him as they carry out play fakes and so forth that mirror other coordinated runs, whether it's Huntley or Jackson. All those things have been similar. Yeah, that's true. But Jackson gives you a lot more past that, I think, when it comes to, Huntley looked in those early games that Huntley had, it looked like, man, there might really be something here, but I think you're starting to see kind of the limitations when it comes to Huntley in the passing game the more he plays.
Yeah, it was not good against Atlanta, and so we'll have to see about Lamar's status. Be watching that closely when the injury report hits today. John Harbaugh on Monday saying that we'll see. When asked about if Lamar would practice, I talked to a Ravens buddy yesterday, and he said that he doesn't know if Lamar will play again this season for Baltimore, and they think that Harbaugh is really downplaying the seriousness of this injury. So we'll see. I think the Ravens' perspective is that he's less likely to play this weekend, but Pittsburgh has to prepare and be ready for the possibility of Lamar Jackson returning.
I was on a radio show yesterday, and I was asked, what I think they're going to do with him. They've got a playoff spot, and if Lamar's not 90 to 95% with that knee, there's no way in hell I'd play him. None.
Right. But now they are fighting for the AFC North still, correct?
Sure. I get that. But I mean, you're in, know, and really there's only one team that gets to bye, and you're not going to get that, right?
Right. But you obviously there's incentive to have a home game potentially.
Sure. But even so, I'm in, and there's 2 weeks in the season left. And if he's not at least 90%, I don't think I play. I've got a good defense. All I need is my defense isn't going to give up more than 20. I don't think. Can my offense score 20 without him? I'd be willing to take my chances in that. Even though they haven't been great.
They've been winning though. They lost to the Browns, but they're 2-1 with Huntley. Yeah, if Lamar is not 100% or close to it, then yeah, he's not going to play in this one. But there still is some incentive for Baltimore these next 2 weeks in terms of fighting for the North and getting a better seed and getting a home game, all that kind of stuff. So we'll see. We'll see what Wednesday says. It sounds like I'm kind of leaning on my Ravens buddy here. It sounds like Lamar's not going to play, but today will be the first real tangible clue to Jackson's status.
I'll bet you a cold drink that he don't play.
Okay. All right. Neither of us have cold drinks, but we'll still shake on it regardless. Yeah, I'm kind of in that same camp right now. I'm probably a little less confident than you, but that's just my nervousness, typical Alex self.
All right.
Let's see what else Mike Tomlin had to say. He had a new quote here. I didn't see big eyes. I saw sure eyes. For Mike Tomlin saying about, and again, that grow up type game, the young guys having some confidence, putting together a game winning drive despite a really ugly showing offensively up until that point. But Mike Tomlin, again, talking about the growth, the maturity of this offense.
Yeah. And I think in that video that we talked about at the top of the show kind of shows his, asking, let me see your eyes. We okay? I could watch 3 hours of that. I don't know if I wish the next phase of the NFL, we've got, we haven't even talked about this I'm super stoked about the NFL getting away from DirecTV. I don't know about you. You live in a local market. You don't have to worry about it. I don't. I've been kind of a slave to DirecTV for a while now, and have been up for, I don't need all those extra channels that come with it. If all along I've been saying, man, I wish I could just buy just that package, and I would buy the full package. I don't, because I like to watch all the games. Or any game that I want to watch, and obviously the NFL Red Zone and all like that. And I've kind of wondered for years why there hasn't been an a la carte type of scenario here. I really think the NFL's been missing the boat, and it sounds like they're going to maybe get it right. It sounds like YouTube's going to get it now, so I'm pretty stoked about that. But within that now, I think they're missing a boat. I think they ought to have like tiers of this thing too, almost like you had the tiers of the all 22 and all like that. You ought to be able to get a game fully mic'd up of certain players or what have you. You know, I think there's little add-on things that the NFL's that could add that people had to pay for that they could make even more money off of, you know? And I guess where am I going with this? I would pay for a whole game of Mike Tomlin mic'd up, you know?
Have they shown the actual full NFL films mic'd up of this game? Besides the 45-second clip they tweeted?
It was on Showtime last night, and I'm sure it will surface here pretty soon. That's another. I don't have. I don't have Showtime. Showtime there too, but I usually find ways to get that by the end of the week, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, it was a very classic for Mike Tomlin. Still, the shipyard thing. I know he's a 757 guy. I guess that's the reference there, but I don't know enough about the local geography to understand that reference. But very funny from Mike Tomlin.
Right. Yeah, just basically saying, look, I could be working in a shipyard right now, and I get to do this.
Yeah, I think that was the message there. All right, going back to Mike Tomlin on Tuesday. Asked about Robert Spillane, who has played every single snap for the Steelers defense over the last 2 weeks. And, Tomlin just praised the progression and basically said, that's the model we build. We want to develop guys. Spillane did not start his career in Pittsburgh, but he was 1 year in and then got signed to the Steelers practice squad. Actually, was a futures contract, then went through camp, practice squad, special teams, now defensive, has a pretty serious role there. And so a lot of praise, as Tomlin has always had, for Bob Spillane.
Yeah, good guy, man. I mean, you just wish, you wish he was a little bit more athletic and do a little bit more things, but get ready to see more of him against the Ravens on Sunday night.
They trust him a lot. Again, in that Raiders game, Devin Bush and Miles Jack each had pretty situational roles. Miles Jack only played in base defense. Devin Bush only played in nickel defense. Spillane was in every situation, base, nickel, and dime, right or wrong. He's on the field all the time. And so, I think for this Ravens game, as you said, run heavy, you're going to have Spillane out there. Spillane did not play well in that first game against the run. No one played well against the run in that first game. But yeah, I would expect Spillane to still have that pretty heavy presence in the rematch.
He's an extremely smart guy and gets the schematics. He's the kind of guy that you can kind of envision being a coach after his playing days are over.
Sure. The question is, does he come back? I mean, he's unrestricted free agent. They got some other decisions there. Even, I'm going to send you down a rabbit hole. What about Miles Jack? I mean, could he be a one and done thing? I know it's a 2-year deal and you're losing some other guys, but he's really faded down the stretch. He's been hurt. That's probably playing a role, but I mean, he's literally only played in base defense against the Raiders. He can't really run right now. There's some concerns there.
I think both of those, Spillane, I think Jack, at least you carry through the off season. I don't think there's any harm in there because you need body. And that's why I think they went out and got, Crowder and all. They need bodies, man.
Mm-hmm. Sorry to interrupt, but just really briefly, I mean, this regime did not pay Miles Jack. That was Kevin Colbert that paid Miles Jack. And so I just wonder, will there be a difference in evaluation of him from Kahn and Andy Weidel?
I think more than anything, you've got to carry him, and we'll see what happens with Devin Bush, right? I mean, that's another one that could be out the door. I mean, it's not a huge loss, but you need bodies, you need experienced bodies here, and his salary is right there on that mark where, it's enough where he better start if you're paying it,
Right.
How quickly can you bring Mark Robinson along, and can he be a guy? Spillane, the only way Spillane comes back, if you ask me, is on a veteran benefit contract.
You think?
That's with the understanding that he's not guaranteed a roster spot.
You think it'd be that? And I think he would get paid something above that. They like him. He's played for them.
Then have at it somewhere else. I think you might be overvaluing him a little bit.
But they value him. I mean, it's not about my evaluation. Yeah. They love the guy. I mean, they're playing the guy in every situation. They've talked him at every step of the way. I mean, he's a kind of a glue guy.
I just don't think there's going to be. I think that's going to be the same kind of. He'll have probably the same. If he gets an offer much of somewhere else, he'll probably say, "Look, I'd rather just stay over here." You know, kind of thing. He's a minimum value guy still, if you ask me.
You think he's the same value as a Marcus Allen? Because I think Allen's like a minimum value kind of guy.
Yeah,
I think Spillane is more than that.
But Allen does have. I mean, I don't want Allen out there on defense.
Sure, that's why he's a minimum value guy.
But I don't have a problem with him playing on special teams. And really, I'd kind of feel the same. I don't want Robert Spillane starting, and I would want him on special teams. So I'd put him in the same boat as a minimum value guy.
But I think he's a better defender than what Marcus Allen has.
Sure.
Been. I think Spillane's a bit more niche, and I think he has been overvalued by this team. But there's more defensively than what Marcus Allen provides.
From a need in the body standpoint, I think Spillane should be back, at least competing for a job. But I'm not knocking myself out financially to get that done.
No, yeah, I'm not saying he's worth a ton of money, but I'm just making up numbers, 2 years, I don't know, $4.5 million, $5 million, something like that. I think is sensible for Robert Spillane. Wouldn't I'm not saying I would necessarily do it, but it's logical and sensible to me.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're paying him 2 years, you're basically paying him for 1 year because he ain't going 2024. He's not going to be around.
Sure. Well, then you know how it goes. You spread some of the cap numbers around a little bit, give yourself the option.
Bonus, you're basically paying them for the 1 year. So another, and I'll be interested to see if they go that route. I think he's a minimum salary, veteran benefit guy. You give him the max signing bonus with the veteran benefit of whatever it is going to be next year, 150,000 or whatnot. But it ends there, if you ask me.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they approach it. I mean, I think we agree there has to be some new pieces there, and Mark Robinson's a guy that'll be exciting to watch in year 2. But, we've talked about the revolving door of inside linebackers this team has had. I mean, can we count the number of guys they've had trying to play since Ryan Shazier got hurt? I mean, you'd have to take off your shoes to start counting. Yeah, John Bostic, Avery Williamson, Schobert, Spillane, Vince Williams, Devin Bush, I mean, it's a very long list of names and not a super impressive list of names.
Here's the long and short of it. They have got to get much better at the inside linebacker position next year.
Would you prefer them? I know it's a broader question, but would you prefer them to do it through the draft or through free agency?
Yes.
I'll say draft.
Not a first round pick. But I think you can get a good young inside linebacker you can develop, round 3, round 4. And I haven't even looked at the list,
Sure.
It's going to be a while since I studied until I study that. But I think you need someone there that you can maybe groom and all. And then on top of it, I do think maybe you need to go out there and get another, try to make another grab at an unrestricted guy.
Yeah, I know they've had failures in draft and free agency when it comes to the position, but I'll go through draft, cheaper, younger, better evaluation. I mean, they've tried so many free agents or trades, which is effectively the same with Schobert and Williamson, Bostic, now Miles Jack. I'd rather go through the draft to try to find that guy. Again, agree with you, not necessarily first round, but, I don't know, second through fourth round, something like that.
And look, maybe they have something to Mark Robinson. They've got to find out between now and hopefully they will a little bit more in the last couple of games or whatnot, but definitely by the start of after training camp next year, they got to know who Mark Robinson is and whether or not he can be that guy.
Agreed. I mean, you would expect the guy, any rookie to second year guy is going to make a jump, but for him, who's got the position more down pat after a full year in the NFL, still new to it, transitioning from college from running back to linebacker, you should expect a really big jump in his play. If you don't get that, that might be an answer. But this summer of 2023 will be as important for Mark Robinson as it will be for any player on this roster.
Agreed. I mean, and as far I think Jack stays on the roster at least until week 1, I think you've got to almost have to do that. You need some experience in all in that room.
I think you're right. It's just a thought that hit me because he's definitely limping literally and figuratively down the stretch, and he's not super cheap, and it's a new regime, and they're going to probably add some pieces, and you just wonder about the future of Miles Jack in Pittsburgh.
Right.
All right, what else from Mike Tomlin? Said the interesting comment about his run defense had struggled so mightily against Baltimore, but has otherwise been good against Carolina, against the Raiders, really good since the bye. Tomlin saying he thought the Steelers just had a bad day against the Ravens the first time around. Hopefully they won't have a bad night on Sunday night.
Here's the thing, man. There's two things that you better make sure does not happen in this game. You better not let them run on you, and you better not let Mark Andrews catch 8 passes for 130 yards and a touchdown. Those two things. You can have the Robinson kid who's really come out of nowhere, the wide receiver for them, really having a good. You make a quarterback, and let's assume it's Huntley. Mm-hmm. You make Huntley beat you with his legs or his arm to someone not named Mark Andrews. That is the way you look. The Steelers just took away, and we'll talk about it a little bit. I thought the Raiders gave up too easy on running the football and all, but I mean they shut down a running back in Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams. They took him away with a lot of bracket coverage and all. I'm not letting the running back or the tight end beat me.
Yeah, I mean 100%. But the thought there is, every team that plays the Ravens says the same thing. Don't let their run game get going. Don't let Mark Andrews take over the game. And most weeks, defenses fail in that task. And so it won't be unique to Pittsburgh, but it will be critical.
Right.
So anything else there from Mike Tomlin? I think that probably covers it pretty well. One last thing he did say, though, and it's an expected answer, he's not paying attention to any of the playoff scenarios the way that we are refreshing. And I'm going to segue into all the scenarios because that really comes into focus. I said this a couple weeks ago. I don't try to think about playoff scenarios too far out, but when there's 2 weeks left, I start paying attention because then the things start to crystallize and it's a little less vague and a couple less options of how this thing could go. So Dave, I know you've been putting in fantastic work mapping out all the many playoff scenarios of how this team can make the playoffs. Of course, Pittsburgh must win out against Baltimore, against Cleveland. Beyond that, what has to happen for this team to make that crazy run to get into the postseason?
Man, it makes my head. The other night made my head hurt. And when it comes to mapping all that stuff out there, and there are obviously primary scenarios when it comes to this, but people want to, people want, if you don't post all of the scenarios, people say, why didn't you post all the scenarios, even though a lot of them include ties and stuff like that, right?
And listen, ties almost became a thing last year that knocked Pittsburgh out of the playoffs. So you don't want to discount that kind of stuff in 10-minute overtimes,
right? And the moment you don't post it and you get in that way, people say, well, why didn't you post it? Because half the people say we don't need that because if we don't do this, don't do that, we won't get in. That kind of thing. All right, the easiest path now since the Chargers have secured a playoff spot on what night was it? Monday night,
beating the Colts, which was a terrible. I watched the game because I felt compelled to, and I'm so mad that my time was wasted.
Right, and it was a waste of time because it wasn't even a close game there. So now that the Chargers have clinched, that leaves technically one space open for the Steelers because the other space is going to go to the AFC South champs, which is either going to be the Titans or the Jaguars here. So the long and short of it, this week 17. Need the Patriots to beat the Dolphins. That would be the single best thing that could happen. With the single best thing happening, in addition to that, would be the Jets losing to the Seahawks this week, and then obviously the Steelers beating the Ravens on Sunday night. If you get those three things to happen, and here's the thing: the Dolphins play on Sunday, so and I believe at 1:00. So if they win either one of their two final games, it's over. All right. So the Dolphins cannot win in week 17 and they cannot win in week 18.
So they must lose out. Or no, there's ties in there. Okay.
They can't have one tie. They cannot have two ties. And here's the thing: their final two games are against teams the Steelers are battling. The Dolphins, the Patriots and the Jets. Okay. So and they obviously play the Patriots this week. Here's the bad thing: is if they tie the Patriots on Sunday, then the Jets must tie the Patriots. It becomes a must-tie situation in week 18. So obviously you don't want something like that to happen. So you have to pretty much root for a Dolphins loss on Sunday. And if the Jets win, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but it would also bring in the aspect that they must tie the Dolphins in week 18 because you cannot have the Jets get to 9 wins, right? Because of the tiebreakers with the Steelers there. So even though there is tie scenarios that work into all these different scenarios, the most likely path for the Steelers to a playoff spot begins with the Dolphins losing to the Patriots and the Jets losing to the Seahawks, and then the Steelers beating the Ravens on Sunday night. Once you get to that spot, then it comes down to, in week 18, needing the Jets to beat or I guess tie the Dolphins in week 18, and then having the Patriots either lose or tie to the Bills in week 18, and then the Steelers obviously taking care of business against the Browns.
Gotcha. Okay, so
the only way the Titans and the Jaguars work into any scenario with the Steelers is if the Steelers were to tie one of these two teams, and then other ties mix in. Or other things go certain ways there, and then it would come down to needing the Titans or the Jaguars. If both the Titans and the Jaguars win their games in week 17, they would need to a tie in week 18 would be the worst thing that could happen to the Steelers if the Steelers are working on a tie of their own.
Well, God help us if we're in that scenario, and I'm trying to figure all that stuff out.
Well, that's why you lay all this out, because if they do, people say, you guys covered the Steelers and you didn't cover that. All right, well, we covered it for you. We wasted 5 minutes, so don't tell us we didn't cover it if it should come to that. But long and short of it, Dolphins lose to Patriots, Jets lose to Seahawks, and the Steelers win on Sunday night. That's then maybe we're cooking with gas.
And this is why I hate the 10-minute overtime rule, because ties they've increased. I mean, I don't know the exact stats behind it, but you certainly felt, this generally, 1-2 games a year the tie. And that happened to Pittsburgh last year, and I hate the rule in general. And so it's one of my many complaints sent and unanswered by the league office. I'm mad at Roger Goodell for not getting back to me. So let me phrase it a different way. Before the Steelers can be eliminated before they kick off on Sunday night, correct? There's a possibility of that?
Yeah, there's actually 2 possibilities.
Okay, explain. I like to look at it from that way. Explain how Pittsburgh can be eliminated before playing the Ravens.
It would be obviously a Dolphins loss. I mean, a Dolphins win. A Dolphins win does it all by itself.
Okay. So the Dolphins beat the Patriots. The Steelers are out.
Correct. Okay. And then the other one, I think, is if the Jets tie the Seahawks and the Dolphins tie the
Pats.
The Pats, right.
Okay. So putting that unlikely scenario aside, I know it's important to say just because we're being thorough. We're nothing else if not thorough. But Dolphins win, Steelers are out. That is what the main focus has to be in this game.
Right. They hang around even if the Jets beat the Seahawks, which we obviously hope doesn't happen. As long as the Dolphins lose, there's still some.
It would be a very So just to run that scenario out, let's say the Dolphins lose, the Jets tie. What has to happen in Week 18 besides Pittsburgh obviously winning their games?
A lot.
Okay, it involves more ties, I'm guessing, or something.
Yeah,
the Jets would have to tie the Dolphins, right? If they, or no?
It's complicated, and
okay.
I don't
we'll put that aside.
I don't want to go all the way down that rabbit hole there.
Okay, but
I'll spend 15. Here's the thing: the Steelers are eliminated, obviously, with a loss of their own. All right,
right.
A Steelers tie plus a Jets win or tie eliminates the Steelers, or a Steelers tie and a Miami tie this week eliminates the Steelers. A Miami win obviously eliminates the Steelers, and then to the other point, a Miami tie on Sunday and a Jets win would eliminate the Steelers.
Okay, gotcha. Can I make your head
five ways?
Well, it's I hate when you throw in the ties, it really makes it more complicated.
Right.
How I'll make your head spin briefly one more time. How can the Raiders get in? They still technically have mathematical hope, right? I have no idea what the scenario is at 6-9, but I know they're not technically officially eliminated.
Right, and I think it begins with a Steelers loss more than anything, and
okay.
they have to have kind of the similar games go the way that the Steelers need to go. The Raiders obviously have to win out, and they obviously would need a Steelers loss in there, I think, too.
So they basically need the help that Pittsburgh needs and the Steelers losing
right.
to get and winning out. Okay,
right.
I see how that works. Gotcha. All right, so Sunday, it's a 1:00 game, right? Dolphins, Patriots, right. And so we'll all be glued to that ahead of the Sunday night matchup. And of course, now you throw another storyline on top of the storylines with Tua in concussion protocol. Don't know his status in this game. It's maybe looking less likely he'll play, being in protocol and kind of entering it a bit later in this process on a Monday. So there's more storylines on top of storylines.
Right. And then look, you got the Mike White coming back for the Jets, right? You know, and I think they've even had a couple of injuries on top of it. They play the Seahawks, and thankfully the Seahawks are still gunning for a playoff spot. So that means something to them. The Patriots, if the Patriots lose, they're done. So they've obviously got a lot to play against the Dolphins as well too. Overall, though, my biggest fear is just from, I'm not. We obviously aren't fans of that game getting moved to late because it just makes for a long night of work and a lot of work on Monday trying to get the content out that we need and all like that. It feels like they're going to have a lot of egg on their face if Miami wins earlier in the day, and basically the Ravens. I mean, the Ravens-Steelers game would still hold some meaning because, as you said, the Ravens trying to, maybe increase their playoff spot, and the whole Mike Tomlin non-losing season, blah blah blah. But that game loses a lot of significance if the Dolphins win.
Yeah, I'll be an extra mad Alex on Sunday night if the Steelers are out by the time that game kicks off, and we got to be up until 4 a.m. and a game that doesn't have the weight that we hoped that it would, but we'll just have to
why wouldn't you flex the Dolphins Patriots game into the night spot,
Good point. Yeah, I think that would have been more interesting and more weighty, but that is what the NFL has chosen to do.
You're correct, sir.
So those are the scenarios. We'll be watching that closely, and thank you for putting in all the work so I don't have to, because I don't want to have to think that much and make my brain hurt. I let you do all the brain hurting, and then you just tell me the information.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, Dave. Let's talk about the all-22 from this Raiders game now that we've had several days to go back and watch and digest the film. Let's start here with the Steelers offense. Probably less to say there because it was bad when you watched it live. It was not much better when you watched the all-22 back. But what were your thoughts on the offense?
Man, this running game has first and foremost, I'll start with this. I thought Kevin Dotson had a good game. I thought Dan Moore had a good game overall. I thought they did, played a lot better in the run game and in pass protection as well too. All that said, we're still looking for that perfect run game. I think from this team in the running game here. on things like the crack toss that we talked about the other day on Jalen Warren. If you block that up, if you have better execution on that play from your guys, that probably ends up maybe in the end zone. So is it the play call? Is it the execution? Is it both? I'm never a fan in third and short situations of having something develop. I'm always a fan of north-south. So I'm at my root, I'm going to have problems with a toss on a third or fourth down situation. And in that particular one, just horrible blocking out on, missed blocks out on the edge on that and all. Back to the core question there about the offense. It's the same thing, right? You get split zone, you get kind of some variation of inside zone. You get the jet sweep, and an occasional toss, occasional fullback lead, a quarterback sneak. I mean, what else is there to this running game?
Well, I think overall they've been pretty diverse this year. I think their split flow, split zone action is their base concept, their most used concept. If you put the numbers to it, I don't know that to be a fact, but that would be my strong guess. But they've run a lot of different things. I mean, they've run basically everything that you can run, even introducing in recent weeks some of that crunch, wham blocking type scheme that the Raiders do, for example, that the Patriots do, that the Dolphins do. And so they've kind of borrowed some of those ideas. The effectiveness has been a bit up and down. I thought they found some traction there. I thought, Harris ran hard and ran downhill, but you're still looking for a bit more. And of course, looking for more this weekend than you got in the first game against Baltimore. But the Ravens have, for my money, the best run defense in football. And it will be, every yard in that game will be earned.
Yeah. Where's the pulling guards and all? I mean, we're just, and, maybe more stretch,
Yeah, but I like getting downhill.
Yeah. But here's the thing. They're keeping it simple for the most part, and that's fine as long as there's not the consistency enough that's producing enough. And my biggest thing too is where are the longer runs at, and I'm not even talking about the 20-yard variety. A lot of coaches will view runs of 10 yards or more being explosive. There's not enough of that in this offense, and it's and there's too much negative runs in this as well too that's hurting things. So my biggest thing is that the run game doesn't seem. Had the playbook in regard to that hasn't seemed to broaden much throughout the season.
See, I would disagree. I think they haven't run a lot of gap, but I don't know if they have the people to really do it. And maybe Daniels maybe more so than Dotson, but I don't think it's something that's been super effective for them. I think they've been pretty broad. I think they've run. I mean, compared to where they were before the bye, where they're at now, I think it's seen a lot of progression.
I don't feel that way.
No, I mean, against even the Panthers game where they didn't have big numbers, but they still ran, I thought effectively and efficiently, and they got downhill, they moved the pile, and they've had games running for over 200 plus yards against the Saints and the Colts. They ran well without Najee Harris. I don't know, you don't think they've done a good enough job there?
I don't think they've just broadened the overall playbook in there, and I mean, the run game has gotten better, but it's still not where it needs to be.
I mean, you would like those 10-plus yard runs, I think. Do you think that's more on the backs? Is that more on tight ends, receivers, not
all it takes is one plays? Well, and look, all it takes is one guy to blow an assignment and it blows it up,
So you think that's the root cause, though, of why they're not getting
I think they're not getting enough consistency across the board up front. And then, look, I've known that Najee Harris is not going to be the guy that's going to produce 20-yard runs for you, but he should be the guy that be able to produce 10 and 12-yard runs for you. You know,
where does he sit on the year on 10+ yard runs? Do we know where that? There's always a volume to that and a relativity. That's kind of my thing, as you guys know. So I'm not sure. You'd have to do the math on the average, how many 10+ yards based on number of carries. But I would be curious to know where he sits. I'm sure he's not at the top. How close to the bottom he's probably middle of the pack. Those are things that I'd be curious to look up and to know where he stacks up with the rest of the NFL.
All right, I got it to 222, 2020.
All right, I'll let you look it up with our handy dandy play finder from our friends at StatHead and Pro Football Reference. Yeah, I'd imagine, I don't know, he's probably like 15th in 10+ yard runs. Maybe that's a little generous. If you eliminate the quarterbacks and just say maybe just running backs, because you got the Fields and Jalen Hurts and their scrambling ability, skews some of those numbers, because those guys are certainly going to be higher up than a lot of running backs in football will be.
Let's see how they stack up against the league first and foremost here on runs of 10 yards or more. They are actually right dead in the middle, it looks like, with 47 of them.
Okay.
And we can drill that down even more by team here. And we'll see that 17 for Najee.
Okay.
47.
17 of the 47. Any idea where that ranks individually with other NFL backs? Again, I'm sure it's not at the top or anywhere all that close. My guess is about 14th, 15th across running backs in football.
Let me sort it back the other way here by player.
I know you might have to sift through taking out the quarterbacks as you look down the list, but that's just my guess. If you just had an eyeball of where he kind of ranks, I'd be curious to know.
Let's see here. He's down there with Tate. I'll give you a comparison here. Taysom Hill has 16 of them.
Okay, well, that's not a great
And Najee has 17. Marcus Mariota has 17. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Taking out the quarterbacks. 5, 6, 7, 8. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. He's down there.
Yeah.
21, 22, 23. Looks like 24th. He's tied with Cordell Patterson, who's been hurt, hasn't he?
Right. And he missed, he was on IR for a portion of this year. So, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely with you. I think this team hasn't got enough big runs, even of the 10+ yard variety. Now, how have things been since the bye to kind of stratify this a bit more? I'm sure it's been better. How much better, I don't know. But, obviously what they were getting before the bye was absolutely nothing with the run game.
Look, I mean, if you gain 4 yards on every play, you'd never lose a football game. Okay? Right? But it does seem like a lot of 4 yards in a cloud of dust and then followed up by a negative play of -2. You know what I'm saying? I just feel like the run game, overall needs to be expanded into play, overall and obviously the execution. And look, I think Billings did a good job against this run defense. A guy that we've talked about quite a bit over the years. He did a great job of blowing stuff up in the middle. I thought overall, the tight ends, the tight end blocking is just not good enough, Alex. And look, I mean, Freiermuth's not going anywhere. Obviously, Freiermuth gives you a lot in the passing game. He's a great blocker out in space. But him and Gentry and Hayward are just not good enough, I don't think, to be end of the line guys that you rely on, especially when you're putting 2 tight ends out there.
Yeah, they were one of my sneaky guys on the losers list coming out of that game. I thought tight end blocking was pretty poor. I thought they had some tough assignments and some of the split flow stuff on Max Crosby. And do you love the schematics of that? You can certainly have a debate and conversation about that. But Gentry especially should be better than where he's been for large portions of this year. And Freiermuth has, made progress in a lot of areas as an inline blocker, probably some progress, but it's still not, people want to call him Heath Miller as receivers. Sure. He's like Heath Miller as blockers. He is not like Heath Miller.
Right. I mean, and look, we agree Gentry's probably going to be back on this team, right? Or at least through you're probably going to re-sign him and there's a good chance that he'll be back and potentially on the week 1 roster, right? But
yeah,
is it good enough?
Well, I think it's been a little bit disappointing what Gentry's done as a blocker this year, but I think they like the role, and those guys can be a little hard to find. So, I expect him to be back. But yeah, I think the tight end blocking in general is one of those extra elements that have to improve to maybe create some more explosive runs in this run game.
Fryermuth's at a ceiling, right? As far as the end of the line guy?
As a blocker or just an overall player?
No, but as a blocker, because
I wouldn't say second year guy. I mean, he's never going to be a great blocker, but I wouldn't say he's at a ceiling.
So you're good. Are you good next year? If I told you right now that your 3 tight ends on this roster is Freiermuth, Gentry, and Connor Hayward?
I am.
Okay, I'm not. But
who would you swap out? Who would you dump?
Gentry,
and replace him with just another blocking.
I'd get me a because look, you don't want Connor Hayward out there on the end of the line of scrimmage. No. You can do stuff with Connor. To Connor Hayward's credit, he's on the split flow stuff. He's getting some cuts done, and he's there was another play, the
14-yarder that you tweeted, right?
I believe so, where the guy he's supposed to block, he's coming across, goes too far upfield, and Connor just says, "Look, I'm just going to go get the next guy."
Oh, that was a different play. Yeah, that was a smart play. Yeah,
right. So I mean, I like some of the stuff that Connor Hayward does as a blocker, but you're not going to put him on the end of the line of scrimmage from what we said from day one, right? You're not going to take a 5'11" guy and ask him to block Crosby.
Sure. No. And that's why on the split flow, they're cutting now, because to start the year, they weren't asking him to cut. He was just standing up and he was getting crushed. It was getting all collapsed and a big mess. And so they've smartly had him cut a lot more, and he's been effective at that, but it's pretty limited in what you can do as a blocker when you're basically just split flow, taking out knees. Either
Gentry has better become Matt Spaeth in a hurry, because if not, then I think that's what you got to look at. Either that, or you better hope Pat Freiermuth gets a whole hell of a lot better. And once again, Freiermuth out in space is money, man. And that is because of the size aspect. He's going to be able to run over cornerbacks and athletic linebackers and things of that regard. But him on the end of the line of scrimmage just isn't getting it done. And the same with Gentry. They are not road graders out there or anywhere close.
I mean, the weird thing is Gentry was a really good blocker last year. You would agree with that?
He made improvement. I really think you've got to take some of them glasses off. I think you're too high on the aspect.
Well, I've been saying a couple times this year, I've been disappointed in Gentry as a blocker. I thought he was a good blocker last year. I think this year he has not been as good. I'm not. Point on Gentry,
he's hurt. Maybe we'll find out that he's got a toe injury or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, my thing with Gentry is that sometimes you think about how do you replace him, because there aren't too many of those tight ends in football, because they don't exist in the college game, because the college game is all these receivers and these quote unquote tight ends, but they're just big receivers and they can't block to save their life. They might even have size, but like Gentry, he had size coming out, didn't know how to block. And so trying to replace that, if you could tell me we're going to replace him with, I don't know, with the next Matt Spaeth, then sure, I would have that conversation. But
I obviously can't promise you that,
Sure,
that's why I'm resigned to the fact that Gentry's going to be back, and that your 3 tight ends on this team is probably going to be Freiermuth. Here's what I'm saying. They're not getting good enough play out of their tight ends as blockers this season.
Yeah, and I'm with you 100%. And like I said, they were both on my losers list coming out of that Raiders game, because I thought they did not do a good enough job, even knowing some of the difficult assignments that they had. So I'm with you there. I do wonder what Gentry will cost. I mean, I don't think he'll be a minimum guy. I don't think he'll be anything crazy, but I don't know if he's going to be at that bottom level price tag.
Yeah, I would be careful,
Yeah, I mean, I just think the tight ends get paid more than you think sometimes too.
Right.
I go back to Jesse James and him getting like $20 million. We got like $4 million per year from Detroit whenever they and they went and drafted Hawkinson that year. Very strange. So sometimes those tight ends that are 25 get paid more.
Look, who's my Auburn boy that was with the Bengals? I mean, a couple of those guys was getting $6 million a year.
Yeah, Uzama, right? Who's now he's barely even used for the Jets, so weird signings get made.
Go sign him. Is it how many year deal did
it was more than one. It was a multi-year deal. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I don't know for a fact what the details were, but I'm sure it was more than a 1-year contract.
All right, but anyway, I think the running game has been better, obviously, since the bye week specifically. But it needs to get a whole lot better. The passing game, going back to the tape on the Raiders game, how much did the weather and the cold dictate, and the closeness of the game kind of dictate what they wanted to try to do in there? I think Pickett was all over the map in this game, to be quite honest with you. There were some very good throws, and there were some very uncharacteristically kind of off target for him. You look at both of the Deontay Johnsons that on TV you say, oh, those are drops. Mm-hmm. Well, one was clearly behind him, and one I ran that thing 20 times, man.
Over the middle that went kind of through his hands. Yeah.
That was high, I think. I just think that was too high. And
it was high, but it was catchable. It was one of those words.
That's why I went 20 times with it,
Yeah.
Okay, I could go either way with the drop versus too high, but the fact of the matter, it should have been more on the money, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Pickett was consistently throwing high in this game, even, on a check down to Najee on that final drive that Najee luckily got a hand on. Otherwise, that's probably an interception. The Steelers season probably ends right there. One play I did like, I always say it as, when I came out of this game, I thought Pickett was pretty poor until the final drive, and even then made a couple of mistakes there that he got away with. I always have this saying of, it's never as bad as you think it is. It's never as good as you think it is. Watching the tape back, Pickett certainly missed some, certainly threw high. I thought he was a bit better than what I thought he was exiting that game. One great play he made on that final drive, not on the touchdown, which was a really good play. Did you tweet this one? I thought maybe you did, but I was going to tweet it out if you hadn't. The scramble drill completion to Pat Frymuth, where he's throwing off balance, guy in his face, hits Frymuth pretty early in that drive. Remember that play?
Was that the one that was reviewed?
No, not the one along the sideline. It was in the middle of the field.
Where he threw back.
Throwing back. Yeah.
Right.
I was going to tweet that one if you had. It was a really good off-platform play.
It was. And here, I tell you what I was thinking going back through the all 22. And you agree he was all over the map in this game, right?
Yeah, his accuracy was not where it normally is.
Right. But within that, there were a lot of extended plays. Now, whether or not, a couple of them obviously didn't get completed, but there was the aspect of him, the one to Deontay Johnson, right? Keeping his eyes up and finding Deontay Johnson on one of those. And then the one that you're just mentioning right now, the Pat Frymuth. You have got to have those plays, one or two of those, usually one at least on average, and sometimes two in a football game.
You do, the high-level quarterbacks do.
Right, and I was thinking to myself, man, there was a lot of extended plays in this game, by him. Now, once again, he didn't make all of them, but the ones that he did make, the one to Johnson, the one that you're talking about, the Frymuth, really kind of get washed under swept underneath the rug. And you're right to highlight those. And that probably made his game. That's probably why. And that's probably exactly what you're trying to say is I came out of the game thinking it was worse than what it was. But when I go back and I see him make those two extended plays, and you say, well, it wasn't that bad. I was kind of that way coming out of the game. I just kind of view that he was all over the map in this one.
Sure, he was. Again, he was missing high consistently. Even the one to Frymuth on that third down earlier that Frymuth should have caught that he can't catch was also high. And so that was the theme. I think both quarterbacks were missing pretty terribly. The weather's it would impact. But listen, for Carr, maybe you can say it's the weather, fine. But in Pittsburgh, play weather like that, not that extreme, but you're going to play in cold weather a lot. That's just welcome to being a Pittsburgh Steeler. And so it's can't be an excuse going forward. But if you haven't seen that clip, I'll tweet out that completion of Frymuth after the podcast, because I thought maybe that was his best play, because in my head was that whole drive was just checkdowns to Najee until the touchdown to Pickens, but I had forgotten about that play to Pat, which was, I think, maybe his best throw the entire day.
Right, and generally you're saying don't throw it back to the middle of the field, but in that instance it was obviously the right choice, wide open, and in that situation.
Break down the touchdown. You did some good film review on the touchdown to Pickens.
Just overall, I tell you, after breaking it down, I'm thinking, what is that safety on the other side of the field looking at?
Playing too high there against that 3-by-1.
Right, and there's no threat, to him, and he's watching the quarterback all the time. After breaking it down, I'm thinking to myself, man, why didn't he break on that ball earlier? And either break towards Pickens or try to break on to intercept that thing. That was my main takeaway, because I don't feel Pickett did much of looking him off. I do think that Pickens did a great job of his route of stemming it to the outside, the whole timing of it. I guess the safety on the other side was merely thinking, because it wasn't a Freiermuth on that other side, thinking they were going to get that stick nod, or just something to Freiermuth, because they have been using Freiermuth along those lines, and kind of watching. I don't know what that other safety was thinking there, but I did think that Pickens ran a fantastic route on that, stemmed it to the outside, breaking in, and Pickett made obviously a great throw. I mean, there's not much more to break down other than that, I don't think.
Well, no, I think you highlighted the key points, and for Pickens, it was good to see him in the slot. We've talked about his route tree, his usage has slowly evolved. It's, still a ways to go. Still, was a raw guy coming out of Georgia, raw when they drafted him. But you've seen some more nuances in him as a route runner, a more complete route runner, catching a slant on third down, catching that bang 8 for the touchdown. A bit more than just the deep ball guy, although the back shoulder catch that he had was classic George Pickens.
Right. Look, I mean, how do you make a touchdown better? I mean, we nitpick this stuff because that's what we do. I think in a perfect world, you'd kind of like to see maybe Kenny look off that opposite side safety, just give him a glance at least, and let him know that he's there before firing that thing in. That's really the only criticism I think of that play.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, but a good final drive overall. Just some other offensive notes I thought. We talked about on Sunday, I guess it would have been Max Crosby getting 4 quarterback hits. He made some impact plays against the run, tight end blocking, left a lot to be desired, but I thought there certainly was, as there should be, a concentrated game plan against Max Crosby. I thought what James Daniels did to help Okorafor, a lot of it was Okorafor intentionally setting wide to take away the edge, Daniels helping out inside to take away any inside move. I thought there was a really good game plan to minimize Crosby to the point where he didn't take over that game. He didn't make the play that would have won the Raiders the game. And so that was a good job by them to minimize that. Then a good job by Dotson and Dan Moore, because they got left on a ton of 1v1 battles because the center was sliding and because Daniels was sliding to help Max Crosby. So good job by Moore and Dotson to win their 1v1s.
I thought Cole had his hands full.
Yeah, that Billings guy. I mean, we've talked to him before, but I forgot how big Andrew Billings was until he posted that clip of him.
He's gained. And people say he's on his 5th team and all that. You know what? I think all of this problem has been in the NFL is they're trying to make him an every down kind of 3 tech, 2 tech, occasional 1 and 0 and all. I think the way that guy needs to be used is a 0-1, and that and that's it. He is a 15 snap, 18 snap a game guy. And if you use him in a base 3-4, and if he's used as a 0-1 nose tackle, I think he has purpose. But I don't think he's the guy in a 4 down front nickel sub package type of guy. I think he is a specific 0-1 nose tackle, and that's it. And you know what? The Pittsburgh Steelers could use one of those. Yeah,
they just need some dude with a big butt to sit in that A gap and just occupy space, let linebackers run free in their base defense. So I haven't watched Billings super closely. I thought he played pretty well in that game. And, that's a guy that I would He's a free agent, right?
Right. He signed a 1-year vet benefit contract there. I mean, you agree. I mean, he's not a guy that you want out there playing 40 snaps as a 3 tech and a 4 down front, right?
No, he should not play in anything sub-package. He should not see a single snap in. If he is, then something went horribly wrong with injuries. He is a very that's a bit of an issue though because he's so limited. But that role that he occupies, Pittsburgh needs, and he can do well.
I mean, he can play over that 0 and the 1, right?
Right, which is all that I'd be asking him to do.
Right. Right. So. I agree. All right. Back to, real quick on the offense on it, George. Is there anything? This is a test for you. Is there anything that stuck out on the end zone view of the Pickens back shoulder catch?
On the end zone view of the Pickens back shoulder catch.
Right. Right.
I feel like there's an answer here that you're going to provide here in a moment.
Yes.
You just tell me because I'm going to just guess.
Dan Moore that about takes the guy's head off with his punch.
Really?
Got that
I can
queued
pull
up?
it up. Because are you saying his hands were too high? Is this a good thing or a bad thing?
He might get fined for it.
Okay. Let me look.
Look at both angles of that look at the all 22 first, and then go back and look at the end zone shot of it.
Now this is not a positive thing for Dan Moore. You're saying his hands were too high.
He got the job done. I'm just saying it's a shot to the head.
Okay, it's very old school.
I'm not saying negative. I'm just saying I'm kind of surprised he didn't get illegal hands to the face on it.
Okay, well, if your hands are that high, then I would consider that, because he's got to work on his punch. That's kind of been something he's got to work on.
He punched him.
Okay, I got to be more specific, I guess. Right. Do you know exactly when that was? It was sometime middle of the game ish. I'm trying to find the.
I'll pull you the. I don't think I had have it pulled up. I can pull you the time in the game here.
Okay. Good portion of the show, but yeah, I thought more
people want us to spend more time breaking down the tape. So that's kind of it's early third quarter, right? 25 yards.
Is that when it was? Okay, I'm dancing around the play.
13:05, 13 quarter, third quarter.
Let me see if I found the right one. Is
that the Pickens 25 yards, right?
Yeah, there was. The back shoulder one, right?
Yeah.
All right, I think I might have found it. Let me run this one through. But yeah, definitely been watching Moore's punch a lot this year. Oh yeah, to Chandler Jones right in the face. Yeah, that's that right hand snaps his head back. Yeah. Ouch. Right. Yeah, I can hear it. That's where you're setting a bit wide, the defender goes inside on you. So, but yeah, that's a pretty nasty shot in Chandler Jones stuff.
Right. That's illegal hands to the face, right?
Yes, 100%. If that isn't illegal hands to the face, I don't know what illegal hands to the face is.
All right. Anything else? All 22 stay. There was a couple spacing issues, I think, on a couple of plays on that. We've seen that a couple of times.
What else is new?
Over there, this team can't run a running back screen for snot. Did they even run one RPO in this? Maybe one or two.
Yeah, some of the bubbles to Pat. The one that got called back to Warren. Actually, some pony stuff with Warren and Harrison this game. They just kind of copy what other teams do. The Panthers do the same concept, and Pittsburgh just says we'll be taking that. So that's kind of how they built their offense this year. But it's not been an RPO heavy offense this season.
All right, we're running along. What do you got on defense? You charted. You probably have examined a little bit more. I tell you what, David Carr was not great.
Derek Carr.
Give
me with a David.
Derek Carr. I'm stuck in the.
He played like David. He played like David Carr.
He really did.
Yeah. I thought the defensive line. I think what Larry Ogunjobi has done these last 2 weeks in the backside of runs has been really important for the Steelers' run defense. I think his pursuit, staying on his feet, closing some of these off. I know Cam Hayward got all the love there, as he should, because he was just so dominant in that game, run game, pass game.
Best game ever for Cam Hayward, Alex?
Ever's a long time. I'd have to think about what he did to Quentin Nelson a couple of years ago, just given the matchup that it was. But yeah, I think it's one of Hayward's best games. And then when you consider the moment of Franco in a playoff elimination game, it's at least, top 5, if not top 3, if not number 1. But Ogunjobi did a good job. Backside, he's looking healthier overall. That was kind of one of my initial impressions of this defense.
Boy, that him and Highsmith getting good at running that TE stunt over on that side over there, and they need to pay Highsmith. Plain and simple, they need to pay Highsmith.
Yeah, I think they will this upcoming summer. That's kind of my expectation, and that'll be a big conversation starting in as early as June, because Omar Khan seems to pay these guys a bit earlier than Kevin Colbert ever did. Defensively, what Minka's able to do with just the rotations and the way they're able to spin coverages, just more continuity. They've been healthier, so it's really allowed them to play a variety of different looks. Thought DeMonte Casey filling the alley, some of those open field tackles on Waller on the back was really good to see. Cam Sutton, the interceptions, guys making plays in the football, just really good team defense overall, not blowing assignments, playing as a group. I thought those were all really positive things.
Talk about the big play to Waller, man. So it's bracket. They did a lot of bracketing in like cover one in this one.
Yeah, Minka, as he said after the game, was basically the guy responsible for covering Darren Waller. So some of the times he spun down was him taking and manning up Darren Waller. And that was just one of those where I think Waller stemmed inside and then kind of broke it back outside. And it was one of the good throws the Carr had in that game. And Waller's going to get his. But, aside from that one play, I thought the Waller was taken away. I think about the play shortly after that down the seam. That's how Waller scored his touchdown against the Patriots 2 weeks ago, and they tried to go back to that play, and Minka covered it well, and it was good rally by Casey, and I think maybe Elijah Riley as well to basically triple cover that one. And so I thought situationally in some of those end zone shots, Waller had nothing.
I agree. Let's talk real quickly about the game-sealing interception there. You got a good, smart guy like Sutton. You can do some creative things. Inverted cover two on that side where he becomes the deep safety. You're dropping Minka down in there to kind of defend the what you're basically doing is what Tomlin said in the video, in the highlight there. Invite them down the middle. And they did that, and they actually had the perfect play call.
Yeah, it was a good call.
It was a fantastic dagger / Mills. I don't know what switch. It's a switch release off the line between Adams and Hunter Renfrow, and it's I don't know what you call that, Alex. Dagger Mills. Anyway, it
was a dig and a post. Yeah,
right.
to conflict because Adams was on the dig. Minka got held by that. Open up the post behind.
And it was there.
100%. If Carr puts that inside of Renfrow and not more outside, that could have been a catch, and who knows what happens from there.
I mean, at a minimum, he catches it and 5 more yards there. At max, he's gone.
Yeah, I mean, it was very close from having a heartbreaking ending to that one. So a great play by Sutton to finish that one, but that was a really good play call by the Raiders, and Pittsburgh kind of caught a break by Carr's bad throw.
I mean, and it was a bad throw. It was other shoulder, and I mean, it was a great play. I don't. People are probably going to take this wrong, but I mean, it was an awesome play by Sutton. In a inverted cover two, and he did nothing wrong on the play. I don't think. I mean, he does. I mean, he shows his numbers to the as if he disguises it all well, but it was a perfect play call against us. What are we talking about? If they hit that,
yeah, we're talking about next season. The Steelers season's probably over at that point,
right.
Or I mean, who knows? They kick a field goal, go to overtime. Who knows? But yeah, for Sutton, I mean, you don't put that on him, as you said, because he's deep half, he's outside, and so typically there's a middle hole defender that runs down the seam on that. But because Adams ran the dig, it held Minka in the middle, open up the throw between the safeties, and so again, if that would have been a better, accurate throw away from Sutton, Renfrow probably makes that catch, and who knows what happens from there.
That's a delicate position that you and I are in, because we have to look at this thing the way that we just did there. It was the right defense to call, I think, in this situation. I love seeing the all 22 in the rotation and be able to, because it's not often in games you see a lot of inverted cover too, right?
Yeah, I would say Pittsburgh's done a fair amount of it. I don't know what other teams do, but yeah, I think Pittsburgh probably does it more than other squads.
And when you see it, you know it. Kind of situation. But I thought it was a great call at the time. And I did think, though, that the Raiders had the perfect play call on for that. And you're conflicted of how you provide analysis on this, because it could have been a home run.
Yeah, but that was a great catch by Cam Sutton. He's had a couple of great picks this year, a couple of drops, but he's every pick he's had's been pretty impressive. The one against the Bengals, the one against, what was the other one? The Pats, maybe? I forget the jump ball that he had, and then this one against the Raiders. I guess my thought, because on that very short drive, they had Minka playing as that middle hole lurk defender. You wonder in that moment, in hindsight, should he be the center field guy so no one gets beat over the top, or is it better for him to kind of try to rob stuff the way that he does, really well?
They're probably thinking that there's no way in hell they're going to go down the middle of the field.
But why wouldn't they think that? That there's 29 seconds left, they need a field goal, they're going to take a shot. They no timeouts.
I don't know.
Or they had all 3 timeouts, but still.
Probably because I don't know. But it was a great play call, and everybody ran the route. You want some criticism here? I'd like to see the Steelers run more of that switch release.
Yeah, for sure.
And they've got the personnel that they could run that same kind of stuff against cover 2 and try those deep shots. That'll be my end takeaway from watching the Steelers defense is watching the Raiders offense. They do some concepts I like to see the Steelers run.
Yeah, we had talked about that on Friday. They put defenders in conflict. That's a great example of them putting a safety in conflict. He's got to take the dig. It opens up the post, and Carr just missed it. And now there's a big talk. Is Carr going to be their guy of the future? All that kind of conversation. One play that I want to talk about, and I don't know if the corner made a great play, if it was kind of just not a great throw, and Adams just came so close to catching it. That throw along the sideline right before then of Levi Wallace kind of pushing out Devontae Adams on what would have been a 20-yard gain or so right sideline. Good play by Levi Wallace. Him and Sutton, I know they have not been playing the Eagles and the Bills, but still facing some really impressive receivers. Both those guys have done a great job since the bye.
Levi's going to be back next year. There's no reason.
100%.
There's no way you get rid of that dude. Now, Witherspoon's a different story, I think. Sutton, you got to re-sign him. There is no two ways about it. Even if you draft, the Porter kid or whoever, I think you got to have Sutton, because and Millette is what he is, but it wouldn't be bad to have Millette do his 10-snap thing, if needed, Yeah,
he's under contract next year, right? So you bring him in. Here's my thing with Sutton, just to go down one last tangent. I know we're running long here. You're saying Sutton, you still believe about $13 million per year, or at least let's call it at least 10, right?
Yeah, I don't see. I mean, you make picks like that late in the season.
Yeah, that's true. Price tag just went up.
You get kind of attention, don't you?
Sure. All right. So let's just call $12 million per year with Cam Sutton. Here's my thought. All right, Cam Sutton, we're going to pay you $12 million per year. Pretty penny for a corner. Oh, yeah, we need to find number one cornerback. Like, you're saying those two things at the same time. Sutton, we're going to pay you a lot of money, and we got to find a shutdown corner. It's kind of a weird hypocrisy as you pay the guy and say, we got a lot of work to do still to upgrade the cornerback room.
You're not going to pay him and then go into free agency and get someone earning more.
No, but I'm saying with the draft.
Because
draft.
I'm not saying you can't. That's not how the Steelers work.
Sure. No, I don't. They're not going to do that.
It's coming in the draft.
Right. But it isn't a little bit weird to say, Sutton, we love you. We're going to pay you more than we paid any corner in our history. And we got to go find number one in the draft. We get an opportunity to go draft Joey Porter Jr. or Ringo or whoever.
Here's the thing. If I'm Cameron Sutton, because even if it's, let's say it's 12 or 13 million, he's going to get with signing bonus, say he's going to get around 20 million, in that first year. Yeah,
I'm just saying the thought of saying,
you give me $20 million, you can do whatever the hell you want to do.
No, yeah, I don't think Sutton cares about it. I mean, a little bit maybe because there's a pride thing to it, but the Steelers' thought is, because you agree they got to find like a shutdown type corner. Sutton, as good as he is not that caliber of player. Or do you think he is that guy that can take away number ones?
No, but I would much rather the rushing coverage go hand in hand. I'd much rather worry about my front end than I would the back end. Right, but you're still saying that they got to. Sutton can work if they. Sutton can work if they. Sutton and Wallace can work if the pass rush gets better.
Yeah, I think to a degree, but still, when you're facing Jamar Chase twice a year, pass rush is not the sale end all. You gotta make some plays on that type of receiver.
Right. That's why I would spend like a second or third round on hopefully a cornerback that could come in there and play.
Right. That's just my thing. Is you're saying something, we're going to pay you a bunch of money, and we still have a high level of interest in getting a top flight cornerback. It's just, not saying you can't do it, and they probably should. It's just a little funny to do.
Right.
Anyway. But good season, good game, and certainly something's a guy you want to bring back. And that price tag, I'd be really interested in that, because I know you have a more confidence in the number than I do. I really don't know what his value is, because I think he's underpaid right now. And how does that apply to the future? We'll have to wait and see.
Right.
All right. Any other final thoughts here in this game?
I think the linebackers could have played better in this game, the inside guys, and they did a pretty good job on handling Watt overall too, to be honest with you.
Yeah, a lot of chips, a lot of tension. By the way, I should mention Montravius Adams. I think he had the best game of his season, and he's not been very good this year. I thought he played really well in this one, and I think he sticks around in his current capacity, current contract, to be brought into camp next year and see how he looks.
Fight, right? He's not the guy though, right?
I think he's better as a backup than a starter, but I think there's enough there. You're losing Alualu. You're going to maybe lose other guys. You have cap space. I doubt you're going to cut Montravius Adams.
What are you doing with Ogunjobi?
Yeah, we'll keep talking about that, I'm sure. He's such a hot and cold player. His get off is so inconsistent. He's so late off the ball sometimes. I think he's playing well. I just praised him for what he did backside of runs. Do I pay him big money on a 3-year deal? I still do not.
I don't either. I think you get that in the draft. And if he wants to come back on similar to maybe what he's making now, but he's going to probably have some suitors out there as well too. And he seems like he might be a money mercenary, Yeah,
he just missed out on $40 million from Chicago when that deal fell through. So he probably wants to get back to that and secure the bag again. So
I'd like to have him back at, $8 million, but can you get him for that, And
he probably wants a multi-year deal. He doesn't want to do the 1-year deal thing. So you're saying at least 2 years, the Miles Jack deal basically is what you'd be trying to give the guy.
Right.
And he got, when Chicago, how many years in Chicago?
Like 3 years?
For 40?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So is he going to want 8 again? He's probably wants, I want to get double digits, because I was trying to get double digits last time.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. I think it probably wraps up the all 22 review pretty well. So let's get to some reader emails and close out today's show.
Let us do it. You think he's going to get fined for that hit to the head?
Who's that?
Dan Moore.
I bet you it gets missed. I don't think he will. Okay. Will Terrell Edmonds get fined? Because it was Edmonds running out on the field. Yeah. He probably will.
The thing is, he got the mask. We know it's him, but do they know it's him?
I think they're going to be able to find out.
Because he's not in the jersey.
Yeah, they're going to be able to figure that part. I think the NFL has enough sense to know. If we know who it is, they're going to figure out who it is.
I bet he doesn't get fined. How about that? Do you bet he does?
Well, I forget what is the rule is. If you're not dressed, you can't, because the celebrations get so chaotic that if you're not dressed, you can't get out there, right? Technically,
I think so.
Rule? I bet you he does get fined. He got flagged for it. So he's going to get fined for it.
All right. Let's see. Jim Bendis writes in, a general question. If a head coach is fired with a year or more on his contract, if he takes a job the following season as a coordinator or just a regular coach, does he get 2 full paychecks, one from each team, or is it split between teams, or he gets a lesser amount and forfeits the head coach paycheck? D, none of the above. He says, I recall Tomlin said he got Flores cheap, so it sounds like the Steelers are paying Flores something. Thanks. Happy. I think there's Jim. I would have to, we don't get to see coaches' contracts anyway. But I'm willing to bet there's some sort of offset in there. Language that, okay, if I'm a head coach and you owe me this amount of money for the next 2 years that was guaranteed, however, if we fire you and you go somewhere else, we get credit against, some sort of offset from what you get from another team. So I do bet the Steelers probably got Flores on the cheap. And I can't even remember what his contract was before that, but whatever he's getting for the Dolphins is probably minus what he's getting from the Steelers.
Yeah, it's case by case on the language of the contract. I bet you most of them in this day and age have offset language in them. I don't remember Tomlin ever saying he got Flores cheap. Maybe he did, and I missed it somewhere. But
I don't remember. I'd have to go back
that.
and look at that as well too.
Yeah, but there's likely some sort of offset language.
Bryce wants to know, Merry Christmas and a gritty Steelers win. Some thoughts because of his versatility. Should the Steelers be using Connor Hayward more in a fullback role to maximize their use of 3 tight end packages? Have you seen good fullback snaps out of any of Hayward's tape, college or pro? There's very limited stuff. There was a couple of good snaps at him as fullback in his college tape. NFL, not so much. One thing we didn't highlight is that ending call on a jet sweep to Connor Hayward. That was an absolutely brilliant call out of that personnel grouping. You have 23 personnel grouping on the field. You have a guy in Hayward at coming in jet motion. There's no way in hell if I'm on defense, I'm thinking the ball's going to that tight end.
Yeah, it was Matt Canada's best call for sure, and a lot of trust to show in the rookie to make a play and kind of everything on the line there to finish that one out. So not he could run the ball, he's a former running back, but just the trust on the handoff, no muffed exchange. You're gonna trust that they can execute that play. So I as a fullback, his blocking is pretty lackluster. I think he's fine the way he's being used now, generally speaking. I know Jonathan and I just had a debate on Steelers Depot yesterday about is he being used enough. I think he's being used basically just about right.
I agree. And he's not a guy I want on the end of the line of scrimmage a lot. But I tell you what now, you damn sure better that final play that you use in that game's on tape now, right?
It's going to be hard to go back to that.
But give teams play off of that. Do something off of that now. Build off of that play where teams are maybe thinking that Hayward's going to get. You know what? Run that thing early this next week if you want, and then build something off of that with Watt or something. You know what I'm saying? If that's on tape, that's the last play. They're going to be. Why can't you build something off of that now?
Yeah, I wonder what you build off of it because it's so condensed. Do you run play action? Do you run just the ball to Najee? What do you constraint off of that?
Hide a tight end sneaking out or something, right?
Yeah, I wonder if I wonder what you could do with that. Do you fake the jet sweep and then throw it to Connor? Right. Their eyes are kind of on Connor. Again, there's stuff you could build off of that with.
Because it's so significant and it's something that you haven't seen before. Give them build off of it. Use it early, maybe in a similar, maybe not even hand the ball off. Maybe you just run Najee off of it. Give them a reason to look at it. And then as the game progresses, throw it out there again and then run what you want to run off of it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Do you fake that? You show the jet motion, fake the handoff, and then throw in the flat the other way to Najee or whatever tight end sitting over there.
Or misdirection, something to Watley. You can do a lot of different things with that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm sure you
can.
The
old fall down tight end, at the end of the line of scrimmage, not like the 49ers do. But that's the first thing that I thought of when I went back through the tape and I watched that last play. And I know your last thought was, man, why can't they get another kneel down?
That was my thought. I know Connor slid and that was smart, but I want to see the kneel down. Dang it, I'm running out of chances here. So I was mad.
While I'm thinking about what I'm thinking about what you're thinking about.
But your thoughts are a lot smarter than my thoughts because you're thinking about like the next play and the constraint and how you can win. I'm thinking about, I want to see James Daniels play victory formation running back. Like that's my big, dumb hillbilly thought there.
But you get where I'm coming from, right? It's such a significant play and something we haven't seen before. Run something similar. Hell, run the same damn thing early against the Ravens and then build 2 other plays off of it. That they won't be expecting there.
Yeah, that's how the candidate offense is supposed to be run with the 4 base plays with constrained plays off of that. That's what the Shanahan.
But we're not seeing it.
Yeah, we're not seeing not enough for sure. Occasionally there was that boot they had to Najee a couple weeks ago on 3rd down, which was a great constrained play. Can you build off the Derek Watt fullback dive, which has been done so much? They finally got stopped last weekend. Do you build off of that? You haven't seen enough of those constraint plays in this offense.
See, and that going back to the kind of stuff that I'm saying, okay. We are seeing some stuff and all. We're seeing the run game get better and all, but I'm not seeing the progress. And I understand that they want to run their core plays and they figure, okay, less sometimes is better if we can perfect these things, but we're not seeing enough, I don't think, built off of their core stuff.
No, I think that's probably the biggest critique still of the Canada.
And maybe that's a better way for me to explain why my unhappiness with what I'm seeing in the run game offensively.
Yeah, I mean, I get that overall. Should we touch on really briefly, by the way, that Ray Fittipaldo, I guess the other day, said that he still fully expects Canada to be gone after this year, and the players know. I don't think he was meaning that in the sense the players have been told, but just that general feeling of dead man walking.
I mean, you could definitely make arguments for that happening. More so, yeah. I'm not advocating it because I don't think the offense has, from what I just laid out, I don't think there has been enough. I think they've focused too much on trying to run their core stuff that they haven't built up enough off the other stuff. And look, it was great to see that play at the end of that game, but I mean, that's the end of the game play. And if you get tackled for a loss, does anybody even remember it if you win the game? Type situation there. There has not been enough of him building off of these core concepts, and the offense, while it has progressed generally from the bye week on, it hasn't progressed on the scoreboard in touchdowns. And I think that really needs to be looked at. But on the flip side, we've talked about it a few times, there are reasons to think that why they might bring him back for one more season here on top of it. So I based on Ray's comments, still, I don't know which way it's going to go. I really don't.
Yeah, it kind of, started to swing back more towards the possibility of him staying as this offense has shown some improvement in just the history of them. They don't fire coordinators. Right. And we don't know for sure Canada's under contract through next year, but we strongly suspected based on the history of coordinators getting 3-year deals in Pittsburgh. But it wasn't an official report, but it was pretty strong. I fully expect this to happen. Everybody knows it's going to happen. So it's as close to a report as you can get without, I guess, being an official report. But we shall see if he is fired. I think it'll be the first coordinator to be fired after a season since Tim Lewis in, I think that was 2003. So it's been a long time.
Nicholas Gooden writes in, hey guys, and look, they didn't move on from midseason when they had the opportunity,
Right.
Nicholas Gooden says, hey guys, 2 quick ones for you. Are we really thinking Witherspoon had essentially a season-ending hamstring injury? He says, I hate to speculate on guys' health, but it seems odd. I think he was out for a few, came back and played poorly and has been back out ever since. Seems like some face saving, or maybe I'm just being ignorant. Look, could they just say been disgusted and say, I think it was a hamstring injury overall. I think the hamstring injury was serious enough to get him on IR. In the same breath, I'm thinking they're saying, yeah, this ain't going to work out.
Yeah, I think he was legitimately injured, but I think if he was playing at a Pro Bowl level, he'd be back by now. I'll put it that way.
Right. I warned you people about him. Number 3 he's got here. Let's see. I think we all agree the Steelers will draft an offensive lineman with one of their top 3 picks this year. I don't know. I'm starting to think maybe they should go defense, to be quite honest with you. He says it's early, but do you think they should just take the best guy available regardless of position? Or do you think there are certain positions they will not consider on day one? That's a great question with Omar Khan in there. And man, I would hate to pass on the next George Kittle for I got to have an offensive lineman. I don't want to see this team Artie Burns this draft, Devin Bush this draft. Just because and then come out in the press conference and say, well, he was the guy we liked all the time, and it just so happens to coordinate with position and need. Imagine that. Don't pass on a great player that's on your board, regardless of position. And I guess other than quarterback, I guess,
right.
I guess I got to caveat that. But man, so many times we've seen this team say, well, there went William Jackson III. Who's next on the list in the cornerback position that fits the measurables that we like? Artie Burns, okay, or don't Terrell Edmonds this one. Okay. You get where I'm coming from, Alex, right?
No, you don't want to force it. Don't say we got to replace Ryan Shazier, so let's trade up for Devin Bush,
right,
and get him. And I had a conversation the other day about, remember back in 19. Oh, Devin White or Devin Bush, who should they take? Turns out neither. Neither was the answer. Right. Don't take either of those guys. The quote unquote good news is this team has so many holes and needs.
Correct.
It's all going to fit. Like there is no, we're not going to take X position. But truly, besides quarterback, is there any position they wouldn't address? Tight end, I guess, probably in terms of something high. And running back
if you got me the actual next Heath Miller.
Okay, sure.
And that's maybe it is disrespect of Pat Fryman. Pat Fryman's a good player, and he deserved to be picked now, I think, where he was picked. I had a 3rd round grade on him. He's picked on the 2nd round. He is that 2nd round player. Okay, fine. But he is, to me, I worry, is he going to be that next all-around tight end,
Yeah, I mean, I love that Michael Mayer kid from Notre Dame.
Right,
there's a kid from Purdue. There's that kid from Georgia that's like 275 pounds, like big blocking types and guys like that. So,
I'm not saying go that way with a first-round draft pick, but we both agree that don't. I mean, if there's a top, and I haven't looked. I mean, the only thing I would say is I would kind of shy away from that first-round cornerback. But I mean, unless if there is one that you think can be the next Darrelle Revis, I suppose. So I would kind of question quarterback and cornerback. Everything else to me would potentially be on the table.
Well, not running back. We know we don't want to take running back in the first round.
Right.
I think for me, the only thing
that's a given when you talk to me.
Yeah. Just want to put it out there so somebody doesn't think that Davis not open to the conversation. I think cornerback is on the table.
And you know what? We're running along, but damn it, I don't care. I'll tell you 3 positions that I don't think should be taken in the first round of the NFL draft. I think a running back, I think a cornerback, and I think an inside linebacker. Really, I think that kind of stuff gets pushed down enough where that can be picked up in the second, third rounds, to be quite honest with you.
Now you're talking philosophically, not even just the Pittsburgh, but you just think in general.
I'm talking across the board. I don't care what organization.
Why corner, though? I get inside linebacker, I get running back. Why corner?
Because it's so far away off the ball, and if you don't have the other stuff to go along with that if you don't have the defensive front, you're not providing the pressure. I'll tell you the positions you damn well bet them on board taking.
All right, here comes round. Bill Parcells talking to me about
quarterback, left tackle, or really any tackle now, and edge rusher.
I was waiting for the Parcells quote there of the 3 guys that throw the ball, that protects the guy that throws the ball, that rushes the guy that throws the ball.
You either get the quarterback, you get the guy that protects the quarterback, or you get the guy that gets after the quarterback.
There you go. I was waiting for that one. Yeah, I mean, those are the fundamentals of football. So I agree with you there. I think corners, I don't have the same philosophy on corner. Man, you face so many good receivers in the NFL. You got so many good quarterbacks. You're facing Jamar Chase twice a year. You got all these great guys. You got to have a corner that can match. If you want to be a man coverage team to any extent, you got to have a corner that can match.
I can get by with Levi Wallace and Cam Sutton if you give me my 60 sack season.
Yeah, which by the way, the Eagles have done it, and I'm so mad because the Steelers were so close.
I set you up there.
Yeah, I know. Now I'm mad about the rest of this podcast, but they're at 61, which they may set up one of these top crazy records this year. So the Eagles have broken my heart.
38.
I think it's 32.
30. No, they needed 18 to get 50. I remember looking that up. Okay. So it'd be 32.
I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think they're going to get 9 sacks each of the next 2
I don't know.
games.
We've seen them end seasons against the Browns and get
That's
like
true.
9.
That's true. We need one of those. We need like Seneca Wallace playing in this finale,
Right.
although Watson's not playing too well for them.
No. But back to kind of the I don't even remember all I'm saying is everything should be on the board in the first round for the most part. Don't pigeon yourself in, because as Alex said, there's so many different. There's going to be a lot of holes in this team during the offseason.
Yeah, I think the Steelers won't consider in the first round are quarterback, tight end, and running back. Everything else is theoretically on the board.
Got a nice long one here from Jay Mathewson talking about Franco and what he meant to him and all like that. Merry Christmas, Jay. Appreciate that. We don't have time to read that. I'll read Berkey says, saw the piece on the website regarding Steelers leading the NFL in picks this year. They have another crazy stat happening for a 7-8 team. The Steelers have held their opponents to 18 points or less in 9 games so far and 5 in a row. That's a very difficult thing to do in today's NFL. Wonder when the last time a Steeler team has done either of those. There's something for you to look at, Alex.
Oh, yeah. So it's 5 games of 18 points or fewer.
He says the Steelers have held their opponents to 18 points or less in 9 games so far and 5 in a row in capital letters. That's a very difficult thing to do in today's NFL. Wonder when the last time a Steelers team has done either of those. So the 9 games of 18 points or fewer and 5 in a row.
I don't know about the 9 games overall. Looks like they did it and I'm just going off real quick off of PFR. 2019 happened in 2017, 2010. So it's happened.
Okay.
It's happened, fairly recently, but still impressive and yeah, notable stat. But the stat on the interceptions is Steelers currently lead the NFL in picks. Last time they had the outright lead for interceptions in a season, 1977. So
wow.
Can that streak continue? We shall see.
I was 8 years old. No, what? 77?
77.
I was 9 years old, and
don't even say the rest of that.
Already doing things that I wasn't supposed to do.
All right. Well, we'll leave it at that, and we'll keep the focus on Mel Blount instead of your other Blunt.
All right. We ran long. It was a good show, right? We talked enough all 22 and all right.
Yeah, it's been a while. I feel like I hadn't talked to you in a while, so it's good to be back. Good to be back on the podcast.
Yeah, and look, the reason Monday the all 22 didn't drop until Tuesday morning, Monday late Monday night and all. So we just showed there wasn't anything really happening. So we knew the Tomlin press conference was coming on Tuesday. So apologies if you were expecting a Monday show and you didn't get it. This Wednesday show should make up for it, right, Alex?
Yeah, I hope so. And we'll come back on Friday, hopefully with a Ravens beat writer. We'll see about that and get ready for this game.
All right. In the meantime, follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. Like what we do and want to donate to the cause, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button, up right navigational bar. Also, if you'd like an ad-free version of the site, hit the ad-free button, up right navigational site. That's the least you can do. Such a good show today. In the meantime, Alex and I will be back on Friday, as he said, as always. Happy New Year, everybody. Also, or will we be back by then? No.
Yeah, we'll be back before the New Year.
Okay. All right. Then happy merry belated Christmas, and as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.